I yield back.
The gentlelady yields. I now recognize the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Luttrell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief Ortiz, thank you for your service. Mr. Kagan, you as well. Chief, are you a direct report to Secretary Mayorkas?
There is a commissioner and a deputy commissioner in between the secretary and myself.
Do you communicate with them often?
I communicate often with the secretary, several times a week, sir.
So I want to piggyback off of what Ms. Green said, because we were just read in on this explosive device that was discovered by one of your Border Patrol agents. Now, obviously, sir, you're aware of this. How is it that you are not?
Because as the investigative arm of the department, we're focused on investigating TCOs, and the intelligence shared between our two agencies is robust. It happens all the time. We're not actively.
Here's my issue. This is one of the issues I see between and I respect everything that both of you do and everybody that works for you, but the breakdown of communication and the silos that we work in is what's detrimental to this country right now. And if there is an explosive device, if the cartels are using explosive device against our agents, that changes the narrative.
So can I answer my job as the assistant director over countering transnational organized crime is not domestic operations. Our domestic operations folks that work in the field day in and day out are the ones that communicate with the Border Patrol. I'm saying, me personally, I do not know. I can get back to you and let you know whether HSI as a whole knows and our domestic operations knows. So I just wanted to clarify that point.
Thank you. So I would assume that the two individuals that you report to, sir, have reported to Secretary Mayorkas about this explosive device, which tells me that Mayorkas has reported this to the president, and nothing has been said or done to the American public, and Congress had no idea this was going on. Now, if this is the case, and we're surging money, billions, hundreds of billions of dollars across the seas to secure everybody else, and we're not doing anything here in my state, in our southern border, that's a problem, because that means that they're lying to us. Response?
I will tell you that if there's a significant event along the southwest border, whether it's a significant seizure or an arrest, I'm
not talking about drugs anymore. I'm talking about explosives.
Any significant event, whether it be a terrorist, whether it be a significant narcotics load, criminal alien, high-value target, we will coordinate with our investigative partners, and they vary in numbers, whether it's FBI, whether it's the DEA, or our HSI partners. We all belong to Joint Terrorism Task Force. If it's associated with terrorism, every single one of us has an agent or a task force member, and so that information is shared amongst that group.
It hasn't been shared with us, okay? And so here's my problem. If you share something of this nature with us, we can help, okay? Another question, Chief. You said consequences, and you said that your agents don't feel like they have legislation, or that legislation is not enforced to support them in their duties. Who specifically is telling you not to do that? What memo and whose name is on the bottom of that so we can go after them?
When I say consequences, I'm talking about two things. I'm talking about prosecutions, and I'm talking about repatriations back to their home country. We have to have those tools in our toolkit to be able to deal with the migrant surges that we're seeing right now. With respect to legislative changes or policy changes, that's out of my wheelhouse, Congressman. That is your responsibility. That's the administration's responsibility. My responsibility is to enforce the laws on the books and do everything I can to make sure our men and women have the tools that they need out there to do the job.
Okay, so tell me right now which ones you need that are in place that they're not being enforced so we can do something about that. And if you don't have that in front of you right now, please, Bob, get it to me.
I will, sir.
Us.
Could I interrupt as the chairman just a second? I want to make sure I understand Mr. Luttrell's questions. You're asking which policies need to be reinstated in order for him to do his job?
Yes, sir. Okay. Yes, sir. I'm sorry if that didn't come out clearly. I apologize.
That's okay. Go ahead, Chief.
Once again, whatever consequences, you can call it migrant protection protocols, you can call it remain in Mexico, you can call it a safe third country. All of the tools that the Border Patrol and DHS have at their disposal are going to allow us to do a better job of managing this border.
I yield back, sir.
The gentleman yields. And I now recognize Mr. Strong from Alabama.
Thank you, Chief. Let's see. Thank you, Chief. Thank you all for being here today.
Not that I'm aware of, sir.
There we go. Thank you. Well, we'll go with this one then. 4.7 million apprehended, 1.3 million evaded, potentially 20 more percent than that. Improvised explosive device being used against U.S. law enforcement. America protects other countries' borders. Chief, do you think it's time that the United States president sends the military to the southern border to protect the American people?
Sir, we have our DOD partners operating along the southwest border. As I mentioned earlier, I was down there yesterday evening and the day before, working side by side with our National Guardsmen, our Texas Department of Public Safety partners, and a slew of law enforcement agencies. I will tell you that, to me, Border Patrol work should be done by Border Patrol agents. We do have, I think, opportunities to leverage our partners. Back in 2012, I had 21,370 Border Patrol agents. Right now, I have 19,016. My requirement is 22,000 Border Patrol agents. Until I can get there, I'm going to require assistance from other agencies, to include the Department of Defense. But right now, for me, my priority is doing everything I can to add more personnel to my ranks, so we can make sure that Border Patrol agents that are out there doing that job.
And I thank you, and I think it's time to get 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue on the phone, let them know what's going on down here. I also would like to ask you, Mr. Kagan, your office is responsible for leading efforts to counter transnational crimes. This includes combating drugs, illegal weapons, and money laundering. Has your agency seen an increase in criminal activity over the last 2 years as it relates to the surge at the border?
Naturally, the surge at the border is going to create more activity because, as I mentioned, the transnational criminal organizations will target the vulnerable populations. And when you have the vulnerable population moving up towards the border and towards the ports of entry, it's going to cause more activity. And that is the reason for our Operation Expanded Impact, which is the framework that HSI utilizes in order to surge special agents to the southwest border in order to support the increased activity.
Thank you. Who are the main perpetrators of transnational criminal activity along the southern border?
The cartels.
Thank you. If we return to the operational policies under the previous administration, Chief Ortez, how long would it take to get the border under control?
Every policy that allows us to repatriate or reduce the flow of migrants is certainly going to increase our operational effectiveness and our ability to control that border. Once again, we're dealing with a different population group. I think it's going to be a real challenge for us to repatriate some folks from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua. So we have to make sure that we have a tool for those populations, not just folks from Central America or Mexico.
Thank you. There's people out there that can talk about him all they want, but Donald Trump kept our country safe. Under the Trump administration, ICE air was fueled up 24/7, and those that came to the United States illegally were detained and removed to their country of origin immediately, and not turned loose and asked to come to a hearing months later. They're coming from Mexico, they're coming from Guatemala, El Salvador, Ecuador, Colombia, Cuba, Haiti, Iran, and they're coming from China too. Our country is under attack. America is being invaded. No American is safe. This invasion is not a Democratic issue. It is not a Republican issue. It is an American issue. We have learned more in these hours than we've heard out of D.C. in I don't know how many weeks. I'm a freshman United States congressman. I've been in office for 9 weeks, and we're learning more here than we've heard in the last 9 weeks. I thank each of you, but I can tell you this. The thing I'm most distraught about, there's not a Democrat here. This is an American issue. It's appalling that the Democrats didn't show up and America is under attack. I thank both of you for being here.
The gentleman yields. I now recognize the gentleman from Oklahoma, Mr. Burkeen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, you've got courage. I see you trying to be respectful, and I also see you being straightforward, and I want to appreciate you for doing that. For you to admit that we don't have operational control at our southern border, again, you've done that in a respectful manner, and you've done that in a straightforward manner, and that took guts. You said a while ago that in 2014 you were plain spoken as well, and said that we had a policy crisis. Just for the American people, so we can revisit history, who was president in 2014?
Mr. Obama, sir.
Thank you. Did we have a policy crisis soon after, from 2016 to 2020, during the Trump administration?
I will tell you that in 2019, when I was deputy chief here, we had a family unit crisis. And so to me, I thought that at that time we had some vulnerabilities, and we addressed that relatively quickly.
So if I understand you correctly, there was quick action during the 2016 to 2020 timeframe to address the areas that you saw as needing improvement.
I'm not sure I actually agree with how we did it. Separating families was a significant challenge for our organization. And I will tell you that, once again, there's got to be another way to solve some of the issues that we're faced with right now.
Did you feel like we had operational control from 2016 to 2020 of the southern border?
There were times, and there were certain locations where the effectiveness rate of our southwest border was above 90%, 85%. And in those areas, I had extreme confidence of what was happening along the southwest border.
That's great. I appreciate your response on that. 90% is much better than what we heard a while ago of 5 sectors lacking operational control out of 9 on the southern border. You mentioned consequences. I'm grateful for you for using that word. It seems like a word that's missing in public dialogue on this. And so Title 42, our president is expected to let that lapse come the month of May. Would you support finding alternative means to continue Title 42, whether it's the 18 to 45 age frame leading cause of death that's caused 70,000 overdoses last year? Would you support continuance of a measure, health emergency, even if it had to be fentanyl based, to continue the protocol of sending people back to their country of origin?
Any tool or resource that allows law enforcement personnel to repatriate or affect some sort of consequence on individuals that we encounter is going to be a useful tool. Yes, sir. Do
you support the Remain in Mexico policy?
I support any policy that's going to allow us to repatriate individuals back to their home country.
You also said earlier that you and Secretary Mayorkas agreed, quote, infrastructure is important. Secretary Mayorkas and I agree on this. The wall and physical barriers. Our President of the United States in 2016 as a United States Senator voted for the Secure Fence Act. As the United States, at the time, Democrats and Republicans believed in physical barriers. Do you support the concept of construction of physical barriers like a wall? And do you believe they're effectual for the manpower element that they allow you and your Border Patrol agents to then reallocate elsewhere?
And Congressman, I do not believe in a wall from sea to shining sea, but I do believe in infrastructure and barrier systems in concentrated areas, especially urban areas. And that's always been our practice from 2006 when I was an agent in charge in West Texas to now. But I also don't agree that we should tear down perfectly good barrier system to install something that is, based upon requirements that we developed over the last few years. We tore down perfectly good infrastructure system in some areas that we should have just left alone. Del Rio was a perfect example of that.
So under the prior administration, we had 200 plus wall that was appropriated, and the President of the United States, President Biden, by executive order, shut that down. Do you disagree with his decision to shut down the construction?
Yes, sir.
And my last question, we have a Mobile One app that's coming online. It's being utilized. Do you believe all that is doing is the Mobile One app leading to more utilization of consequences or less utilization of consequences?
The mobile CBP One app is actually part of the process to ensure that these migrants have an opportunity to schedule an appointment with an asylum officer without having to put their lives in the hands of the cartels or the smuggling organizations. That's a new system. As with any new system, it takes a while for it to develop, and we continue to expand that. One of the things that we recognized about a month ago, as we heard feedback from our non-governmental organization partners, is that there were some gaps, some language gaps, and some gaps that the migrants generally couldn't understand within the app itself. And so we worked with our NGO partners to make some adjustments, and we continue to expand that as much as we possibly can. But I do think it's part of an effective system so folks who want to apply for some sort of immigration benefit can do it from their home country.
I thank you. I yield.
The gentleman yields. And first, let me ask for unanimous consent of the committee on something. We'll go technical, and then I'll introduce our next questioner. So without objection, the gentlewoman from Texas, Ms. De La Cruz, is permitted to sit on this hearing and ask questions of the witness. Are there any objections? Hearing none, it is my privilege to welcome to the committee the gentlewoman from Texas whose district we actually now sit in. The gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you to my colleagues for allowing me this time to be here with you today. You know, the failed Biden border policy has made technology even more important to keep our American communities safe, to keep our Border Patrol agents safe, and to keep our nation safe. With that being said, the RGV sector, which includes McAllen, Texas, right here where I have the honor and the privilege to represent, has one of the highest drone detections along the southwest border. The cartel drone detections just right here in the Rio Grande Valley sector in fiscal year 2022 was 35,000 drone detections. I'm going to repeat that number for you all because we don't hear it enough. 35,000 drone detections from the cartel that are watching our agents, watching our American communities, and leading illegal immigrants through our southwest border. That being said, out of the 35,000 drone detections, only 10,000 were intercepted. That's it, 10,000. To put this in perspective, the RGV sector only has 31 drones assigned to this sector. Let me repeat that number, 31 drones. And out of those 31, only 18 are actually operational and assigned. The others are down due to maintenance and other issues. So while the cartel have an abundance of resources and have unlimited money to be here on our border, the RGV sector, our agents, our chief, are only left with 31 drones to intercept this. Now, this type of unbalance is unacceptable in the RGV that continues to have high illegal immigration and high illegal drugs crossing our border. That being said, there's other high persistence surveillance, which includes aerostats. There were 7 aerostats here in the RGV sector, and due to lack of funding, 3 have been decommissioned, and the remaining 4 are going to be defunded by the end of this year. With that being said, Chief Ortiz, what is the department currently doing to assist with countering the cartel technology? And again, 35,000 that we detected in the last year.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Good to see you. I will tell you that technology is probably a priority, or no, definitely is a priority for myself and my leadership. Whether it's South Texas or whether it's Arizona, the SUAS issue, as you know, cartels have deep pockets. They don't have to worry about policy. I have to worry about policy. We have 201 small UAS systems deployed throughout the country, and I intend to continue to expand that at great levels over the next 24 months. We have a counter UAS program, as you might be familiar with, and we continue to expand that because we recognize that the cartels have become awfully sophisticated, and a smuggler no longer has to leave the Mexican side to smuggle a group of migrants or narcotics across the border. He can do it virtually via a phone app and a SUAS. And so we need to continue to expand that footprint, but our policies also have to match that. We have to be able to mitigate those 35,000 drone incursions that you just described. We are on the process, in a process of mitigating a lot of those criminal organizations and being able to exploit where they're coming from, how they're doing it, and we're going to continue to expand that as much as we can. And then with respect to the aerostats, I'm a big fan of aerostats. When I was in Afghanistan, and I think some of the committee members will recall that aerostats kept us safe. And when I came down here in 2013, I was the architect of the aerostat program here in South Texas. And when I went up to headquarters, I expanded it across multiple locations across the southwest border. But it is an expensive piece of technology, and I have to find an alternative for that.
Now, Chief Ortiz, can you tell the committee and the members here that are in the audience, can you tell us how deep into American soil have these cartel drones actually come in?
So it will vary. Some of the drone technology that the cartels are using are very sophisticated, and we've seen incursions miles away from the immediate border area. For us, we are doing, I think, a tremendous job of identifying where these criminal organizations are operating out of, but we need to expand that.
So in my debriefings with Border Patrol, I have heard that these drones from the cartels have come up to 8 miles into American land. Would you say that is an accurate statement?
No, ma'am.
How far do you believe that they come into American soil?
I think it depends on terrain. A lot of areas along the southwest border are very mountainous when you think about what we have in Arizona and El Paso. But then when you think about what we're dealing with here in South Texas and in some areas in West Texas, pretty flat country. So cartels can operate via line of sight. And once again, it really depends on their ability to leverage existing systems, whether it's cell phones and whatnot.
We just recently lost some of those aerostat balloons in this past January. So what is the measure that the department is using to fill the gap until we get to the next step?
We currently have a team deployed and looking at some alternatives to a similar type of platform, but that's less expensive. What we've seen in the past with aerostats is in these areas,
and
high
Chief
winds.
Ortiz, I'm sorry, I'm out of time. I'm just going to ask you, how fast can we deploy some of this technology?
We're hoping to deploy it in the next 6 months, ma'am.
Thank you, and I yield back.